on the quiz. Yeah, and your quiz scores are up there if you have not looked already. Yeah, yours is up there. I graded it, and it's up there now. All right, so this is our last type of problem. We want to write the equation of the quadratic. So we don't have it, and we want to create it ourselves. And we're told that the vertex is negative 1, 4, and it passes through the point 2, 1. Okay, so what we can do with this information is we know the formula for our quadratic is y equals a, and then x minus h squared plus k. Okay, so we know that. And then the vertex, what points would represent our vertex in that standard form? The hk. So if we're given a vertex of negative 1, 4, negative 1 would be our h value, and 4 would be our k value. Okay? And then we're also told that it passes through the point 2, 1. Well, that's a point that the quadratic's going to go through. So that would be like our x value and our y value. Okay? So I have a point for h, I have a point for k, I have an x value, and I have a y value. If I plug in my value for h, k, x, and y, what variable do I have left in that formula? A. Could I then solve for it? Yes, we can. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to plug in the value we have for h, k, x, and y, and we're going to solve for A. So y. Well, I have y over there as 1. So 1 equals A. And then in parentheses, x is 2 minus, my h is negative 1, so that changes this to plus 1 squared plus my k of 4. Okay, so how would I have to solve this? What will happen to this plus 4? Where will I have to move it? I'll have to subtract that to the other side, so I'll have to minus it. So I'll have negative 3 is equal to, well, what's 2 plus 1? 2 plus 1 is 3, right? And this is 3 squared, so 3 squared is 9. So I have negative 3 equals 9a. So then to get my a, we just divide by 9. So what's my a value here? Reduce that. Yeah, negative 1/3 is my a. Okay, so now to write this as a quadratic, we still use our standard form we have, but we only plug in our h and our k and our a that we just found. We leave our x and our y in there. So we'd say, okay, y should equal, for a, we got negative 1/3. And then x minus, my h is negative 1, so it changes it to plus 1 squared, plus my k is 4. And there's my quadratic. Does that make sense? Okay. And then you guys want to see one more where you have to complete the square? Yes? Okay. Sure. Can I get a new screen up? You got this down?
Oh, yes.
All right, let's do this one. So, y equals negative 2x squared plus 20x minus 35. So from here, we want to get this into the standard form. So we have to think about completing the square. So for completing the square, we want to keep the x squared and the x by itself. And then, do we want the negative 2 attached to the x squared? No. So how can I get the negative 2 so that it's not attached to it? What can I do? You're right. You divide, except for instead of writing it as divide by on both sides, we can take it out like it's a greatest common factor. So we can take the negative 2 out. And remember, we'll leave the minus 35 at the end. So if we take a negative 2 out of the negative 2x squared and the 20x, what would we get? X squared and then Yeah, minus 10x. Okay. Yep, because we divided them both by negative 2. That's how we got those.
And then it would be plus 25.
Good. So now we need to complete the square. So we take that 10, we divide by 2 to get 5. 5 squared is 25. Okay. Now, completing the square, we would always add that to the other side. But instead, yeah, we're going to minus it at the end. And then was this 25 being multiplied by anything? It was being multiplied by the negative 2. So we have to make sure we multiply that 25 by the negative 2 as well. So then we would have y equals negative 2. And then x squared minus 10x plus 25, how would that factor? X minus 5 squared, good. And then over here we've got negative 35, and then negative 25 times negative 2 is plus 50. So what does that end up being? Yeah, plus 15.
So how come you had to do like the negative 2 up there?
How come we had to multiply this by the negative 2 over here, you mean? So this 25 is in this parentheses, and so it's being multiplied by this negative 2. So to keep the equation the same, we have to make sure that we also multiply it by negative 2 on the other side. Yes? How does that keep the equation the same? Okay, so before we completed the square, if we added 25 here, we would add 25 to the other side, right? Well, instead of adding 25 to the other side, we're going to subtract it from the same side. Because then here we added, by adding a 25 here, we really have a minus 50. Because when we multiply it by the negative 2. And at the end here, minus 25 times negative 2 is really a plus 50. So that ends up being 0. So we kept our original equation the same by doing that. Okay, so we didn't change the meat of this. We just had to rearrange it so we could get it in the correct form. Okay? Does that help refresh how we do this? Yeah. All right. So then